Well, Tom Burke is from the think tank E3G. He's also a former UK government advisor on climate change, and it's good to have him with us in the studio, Tom. Forgive our cynicism and all this, but there's often a popular perception out there that these summits generate more hot air than they're designed to eliminate. Is that fair?
I think there's the perception out there, but actually Obama was somebody who said in his speech today that our big enemy is cynicism, and I tend to agree with him. I think we're at a very interesting turning point in this debate, really, and this issue, and where we're moving from a point when the political risks of taking action on climate change are going up and the political costs of doing something about it are going down. And I think that's for a very kind of critical moment, and we may not be about to save the planet. The planet will probably be all right, but we will save the economy if we get this right.
Now, we've heard about legally binding agreements before. We've tried to get there and not quite managed it. So what are the expectations then this time?
I think the expectation for this particular version at conference is quite high, and that's largely because the politics are beginning to shift. And we've seen, with the presence of so many global leaders around the place, the kind of agreement that has been developing between people like the Chinese President, President Obama, Merkel. What we're seeing, I think, for the first time is a real political will emerging to do something. And when you add to that the idea that increasingly we're focusing, and as you listen to the leaders' speeches, you can hear this, people are focusing much more on the opportunity there is to get it right than they are on what the costs or the constraints of getting it wrong are.
Well, talk to us a bit more about the costs. You're mentioning political costs there earlier, but I mean, what about the economic costs? I mean, is there any way, is it possible to quantify how much, achieving a 1% cut in carbon emissions actually costs the economy?
You can find a vast array of models that will tell you very different things about what it costs you in terms of numbers. I don't think there's any doubt in all the analysis that it's more than we can afford. But what I think is really interesting is when you look at the overall picture and when you look at, say, what the IEA is saying, we would save more money in the avoided cost of getting oil and gas out of the ground than it would cost to actually pay for renewable energy, pay for low carbon energy. So in broad terms, it's going to be better for your economy, definitely, if you avoid climate change, and it's probably going to be better for the economy, actually, if you move to a low carbon faster rather than slower.
It must be quite interesting being China there today. I mean, being sort of the big sort of guilty party in the room. How do you think they're going to be greeted? I mean, we've seen encouraging signs, right? But is it enough?
Yeah, we saw a very good speech, I thought, from President Xi. Now, the Chinese are driven not just by a changing climate to which they're very vulnerable, but they're also driven by massive air pollution. Beijing just had the worst air pollution this year announced. And they have a tremendous sort of sense of the opportunity that will be there. And we saw a lot of announcements from Xi about what they're doing themselves, which again is driven by the fact they're the world's biggest supplier, for instance, of solar panels. They see the move to a low carbon economy as being something that will be very beneficial to their economy.
Tom Burke from E3G, thank you very much for your thoughts today.